Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live interview with Tony. If you are watching this live, let us know in the chat if you can hear us, see us, and let us know where you are from. We always have a very international, diverse audience, and are thrilled to hear where you guys are from. Hi, Tony. Thank you for being here.
Hello, thanks for having me over and over and over again. I love to come and try to be helpful and hear what your questions are. And I guess I should answer your question, like where am I from? Where am I from, or where am I? I'm in Boston, Massachusetts today, although normally I live in New York.
Well, I am. I know you said in one of your recent updates, actually, that you didn't want to make a huge deal out of it, but still, I think it's worth mentioning that Medium has recently crossed 1 million subscribers. So congratulations on the huge milestone. And I think even if you don't want to be too attached to numbers, I can only imagine that it's refreshing to have an update like that and to be able to share it with the community. I think during the PopCraw you mentioned that the 1 million mark is also getting you closer to profitability, and that I think someone asked what's going to change if Medium is profitable. And if I remember correctly, you said you're going to sleep better. What has changed for you, even if it's just an emotional change, or for the team, when you've been able to share that amazing update?
It did catch us off guard how good it felt, because it is a really important milestone that says that Medium is growing again. Because we've been really honest that we had a period a couple years ago where the company was struggling and where things were not going in the right direction, and that's why I came here, kind of with two goals. I'll sometimes describe it to people as like I have two turnarounds to do here. One is very practical. It's make Medium a business that we can all rely on. And that's what I mean by I want to sleep better. I don't want to worry about, making payroll and being able to, pay the coaches 6 months from now or 2 years from now. Right. And so this, something as simple as just being profitable is really important to all of us, because it means, it means you can count on Medium continuing to do what we're doing because it's working, and you can count on us continuing to be in business. And there's a lot of internet products we use where you can't say that. You can't count on them because they're not real businesses yet. So it's just such a huge relief. But I didn't come here I didn't take this job just to do that. I took it with some bigger goal in mind. I've always wanted to hear from the source. I want to hear real human stories, right? And that just gets more and more important every day as the internet gets flooded with things that aren't real, that aren't human, that aren't written for humans, and it's we're missing the most important type of knowledge sharing, like people sharing their knowledge with other people. And I think now that we're on a solid financial footing, we can dream bigger. What would it mean for Medium to collect every story from every person on every topic in every language, uh, and organize that and share that in a way that made us all smarter? Um, it's great. It's going to take a little bit longer, but it's more of a possibility now.
I've been on Medium for 6 years now, and I've seen a significant shift thanks to boosting when it comes to highlighting human stories and the actual human perspective behind every story. That is, in a perfect world, it would be every story that reaches a huge audience, right? I know that you and other team members have talked about how successful the Boost program has been. Is that still the key driver for the growth you've experienced? Or are there any other elements that you want to share that have played a significant role?
Well, that's the biggest new. I'll talk about that, and I'll talk about publications. But if you talk to people that are successful at writing on the internet as it exists today, they'll be able to tell you in pretty clear terms how to be successful requires being able to write for the machines, right? Like we know how to write to be successful in SEO. We know how to write to be viral. And that, like, to us, that misses the point, right? That originally we're writing to connect with some other human. And so the Boost program is really about bringing humans back in the loop so that you're writing, always writing with another person in mind and bring that humanity back to it. Um, so yeah, I mean, just philosophically, that's really important to us. And then again, on practical terms, it's what let us grow. Like I shared at Medium Day one of the key stats, which is still like a pretty good placeholder, which is a boosted story converts someone to a member twice as quickly as a non-boosted story. And like that says that people are sensitive to substance, which is really what the boost is getting at, and and that we've been successful. I mean, of course, it's human judgment top to bottom, and you're always going to find little things that you might disagree with. But as a program, it's twice as successful as a pure algorithm had been. So huge win for us.
And I'd actually love to follow up with that because I'd love to hear your thoughts on what the key drivers are in terms of converting a reader to a Medium subscriber. Because it's, if you think about it, it's insane that people are willing to pay to get access to written content when there is so much of it available for free and available any time of the day. You have new stuff, new content. I mean, that's probably part of the reason, because there is so much out there that you cannot really rely on the humanness or realness of it anymore.
Right.
But I think that in itself is an amazing, not just accomplishment, but an amazing signal to show that there are people who love to read long form content, deep content, written by real humans with flaws, with typos, with some grammar mistakes. That's not the point, but they're willing to actually pay for it twice. The way I look at it, they pay through their attention, because the average Medium story is deep and long, and they pay for the subscription. So what do you see behind the scenes? What do you think are other drivers? Why do people end up paying for content?
I end up thinking it's like more basic than people realize, and maybe it only looks new because we're taking a new approach that other people haven't seen before. But it's just like at a basic level, we all know that a lot of people think that their life will be better if they're smarter, right? That's like why we went to college. We thought we would get a better job. It's why, or some of us went to college. It's why people read parenting books. It's why that's why a lot of reading happens, and why a lot of learning happens, and why people subscribe to higher end content is they just fundamentally believe their life will be better if they're smarter. And and so we hear something like, "Oh, there's so much content on the internet." That doesn't solve their problem. More doesn't help them at all. What they really need is better, and and not just better, and better in a way that they can't already get somewhere else. And the way I've been describing it to people is like what's so important about Medium right now, there's a whole category of voices that got crowded off of the internet, right? It's like we've got journalists now, and we've got full-time creators, and now we've got AI. And what just happened to people that are living their life and talking about it, right? Like to me, the most interesting stories require that someone lived through something interesting first, right? And those are the most authentic, they're the most reliable, they have the least agenda to them. It's like it, I would just always it's always the case that those people have an expertise that comes from the fact that by definition you're an expert in your own life, right? And kind of by definition, there's someone else that's in a similar situation. So if you learned a hard lesson, there's someone else that you could teach that to. And those voices got crowded off the internet because right now you have to be good. You have to be a good marketer. You have to build a following. You have to build a mailing list in order to be heard. You have to learn how to write for the machines. And we just thought, oh, we could take that away. Like, we're good at building curation systems, and if we build a good one, then it can mean that anyone can show up, write something, um, write something, and find an audience for it, right? And so, I think Medium is really unique on the internet right now because of that.
That has surely been a switch that we have seen as well when we work with writers. In the past, it was write for the algorithm, get curated, write a simple
Yeah,
listicle how-to article that would get the most attention, with the goal to reach as many readers as possible, then get them into your email list. And in the email list, you can go deeper. There you can be personal. You can have a conversation and get to know your audience, or ensure that your audience gets to know a different part of you. Now with boosting, I don't want to say it's the opposite, but it's show your human side and your personality in the article. You still have to understand why people want to read certain pieces over others. We still decide based on the title. We still have access. If I open my Medium homepage, I see a lot of stories to pick from. So it's still a matter of how can I communicate in the title and the preview as sharply and
yeah,
as quickly as possible. But you get to build the human connection and the relationship in your article. If you have an email list and someone subscribes, by the time they subscribe after reading a boosted story, there is already a substantial relationship. Usually they feel connected to you. There's been depth. They spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, on your article, and you cannot compare that to someone signing up because of a viral tweet or a viral Instagram post that has taken them 20 seconds to read. And I think that's a
right.
huge
Yeah, I think
difference.
I hear you talking a lot about putting yourself into the story, and I think that's so important for the reader to understand um, the context. And like, if you're giving advice, how did you come to have this advice? I mean, simple examples. Like, I take advice from other CEOs, but I know CEOs of bigger companies have advice that doesn't apply to me, and so I want to know that type of context before I listen to them. And
How
that's
do
true
you
in every
think?
topic, right?
Yeah. What do you think? Talking about the content, the stories itself, what can writers, but also people like me, the educators, the community managers, do differently to contribute to the success of Medium and growth of Medium, or the subscriber growth, really? I think that's
Mm,
the way I look at. We all have a common goal. It's keeping the readers in Medium happy, and ideally sharing, like, our stories being shared with so many people outside of Medium, that they get to discover more stories on Medium and eventually turn into subscribers who stay because they love the stories they read.
right, right. I mean, I mean, I like that you asked it that way. It is a fun experience to run Medium and feel like a lot of people are supporting us and supporting the growth of the overall community. But I'm not banking on that. I don't think that's important. We try to build a platform where someone can come here um, with, it's hard to say a self-serving goal, because by definition, sharing your life is an act of service. But it can be pretty focused on um, you as a writer and your own experience. And the only way that people go wrong is they think, oh, like, I want to hack Medium, or I want to, like, like, Medium is saying they pay for quality, but I'm going to try to get paid for something else, right? Like, for reciprocity, or all the variants of growth hacking. And so I think the main thing is just to understand that all of those end up just being a waste of time for authors. The biggest opportunities are to write something real that it's either real because it's your profession and you're trying to learn or explain something, or it's real because something important happened in your life, or it's real because something not important happened in your life, but you want to talk about it anyway. It's like, right, like as a I tried to demonstrate that once with a post last year about the horse stall mats and how my home gym is set up. And it's like it should have an audience of 20 people, but maybe for those 20 people it was a really important post, right? And so all of that is like the opportunities that open up from doing that are so much bigger than can you grind out a living as a creator on Medium or other places. Really just been trying to talk people out of that. But it is bad for Medium for people to come here, kind of end up stealing money from other authors because there's only one pool, and not for any benefit to the reader and not for any benefit for the people that are doing it. I think I've more and more become suspicious of the creator economy and want to remind people that there's always been this more lucrative expert economy where you write to demonstrate your expertise, you write to build your expertise, and then you make most of your money that way, from getting a book deal or or speaker deals or consulting deals or a new job, right? A lot of ways, like I got my current job by writing on Medium, which is probably not available to everyone who's listening. I hope my job is not available. But it just all of my peers use writing to open up much bigger doors that are so much more fulfilling than did I get $100 this month, right?
What I also love to add, because I think it's become increasingly more important, is when we say expert economy, some people might think, I don't feel like an expert on the topic that I'm interested in or that I'm writing about. What I think Medium is a perfect place for, and that is often being underrated, is what you said actually. When you have an experience that seems irrelevant, but it somehow matters to you, and you share that experience, you express your thoughts, you might figure that other people have felt the exact same way. They had the same doubts, the same questions, the same struggles. They felt like it's not normal or it's not worth talking about. And suddenly you get to connect with people who understand you in that very specific way, because you've had the courage to put it out there and to express it through a story. And I think that's so much more meaningful, and it's so incredibly valuable because you don't have to have that kind of story every day of the week. It's not something you write with the algorithm in mind or with the perfect structure in mind. It's just real and human and different. And I think we've seen so many of these stories reaching the right audience on Medium, which is the biggest reward that you can have, just connecting with an audience of people who understand you and who value the work you do.
Yeah. I think that this is why I said the other thing that's really important to talk about is publications. The publications are the places you can go now to find really specific communities. And a lot of them are the main curators for what gets boosted. But even if you don't get boosted, you're in that publication, connecting to the other writers of the publication and the readers of the publication. And if you're writing then authentically, it's like the connection between what you write and having a real response and connection back from the reader it's much more clear now on Medium than it used to be, and much more reliable. I think a lot of conversation on Medium ends up being about money and whether it's important for you to make a living or just for scorekeeping. But I would say probably the bulk of what is driving writing on Medium is actually community. exactly as you say, like to write something real, even if it doesn't need to reach a million people, if it reaches a small handful, and then you can feel like, you made someone else's life better.
And that's the huge part for me is if I write an article of decent length and someone spends 5 minutes reading it, that's a huge signal. That's what we said before,
Yeah.
right? It's different. There's such a deeper relationship and connection to that person. If someone reads an article for 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, and engages through a comment and shares their thoughts, that's a real connection that is rare to build on most other places, I will say, because most other places are so much focused on the click and the attention grabbing, which
Yeah.
Medium moved away from, to be honest. And that's what allows, and I think that's our part of the beautiful part of boosting too. I say boosting is most exciting for writers who are not marketers, who don't like to sell themselves, and who feel like they don't know how to sell their story. When I end up working with people like that, I will still tell them, that's how to reframe their title to be a little more click-worthy and more exciting, but still the story is the focus. And when we give feedback in better marketing, it's more often telling them that the title is too clickbait or hyperbolic than doing it the other way around.
Yeah.
Like, tell us what the story really is instead of making the title bigger and bolder. And I think that's really unique and it's beautiful.
Right. Right. I mean, you can't know nothing about how the systems work, but I think we can be a place where you can know a lot less. And the title is so important because that is how people are making a decision about whether or not to read your piece. And I always tell people it is kind of like a sales pitch, the title. And I always tell people in sales, especially people who aren't native to it, that this comes from a sales coach that I know, that sales is sorting, not convincing. So just tell someone plainly what it is you're offering. And then they'll tell you, yes, I want that, or no, I don't. You don't need to trick them. You don't need to convince them. There's just trust that there's people out in the world that are looking for the thing that you have. And so the only mistake you can make is to be unclear, because that person that needs what you have will miss it. It won't make sense to them. And so clear descriptive titles you don't have to be any trickier than that.
And that's actually what I love about boosting too. Now, you don't have to be cryptic or try to somehow trick the reader to be excited about a story that's not really hidden behind the title. Like, be straightforward, tell the reader what they're going to get out of the story. And if the story is a fit for that particular reader, you will probably convince them to click and read.
Exactly.
You mentioned the PopCraw. I loved, first of all, I've been in love with the name PopCraw. I think that's been the most fun I had with the name in a long time. But I also love the signal that it gave, because I think it's been the first time ever, or since I've been on the platform at least, that Medium has pretty clearly said publications matter a lot, and we're going to help them get in touch with writers, connect, build communities, and share their message, find new writers. Is there a different kind of messaging behind the PopCraw or other events that you are doing? Because that's been one event, right? And there's been Medium Day. There's an editing day coming up. There's the writing hour. And
wait, tell me more about editing day. I don't even know about this. This is how big the company is now. You're breaking news for me. When is this?
Is it the wrong name? What is it called? I think edit your writing day. Is it that? Is it? I think it's an encouragement to writers to finish their drafts that have been sitting in the drafts folder.
Yeah, I think I have like 600.
Finish your draft day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I have like 600 drafts in my on Medium, and it's when I want to write. If I don't have something in mind already, a lot of times I'll go back to those drafts. And I think over the winter break, I found something that I had drafted in 2013, and I polished it up and submitted it to one of the Medium publications. And it's just I think so much of writing is just the muscle of writing. And sometimes what you start, you're not ready to finish it until later. Yeah, we love the PubCraw, and you're exactly right. It was, it was really meant primarily to be a signal that publications matter. Because Medium had been really confused about this for a long time, even though I think most people know before I joined to work at Medium, I'd been a major publisher here, running 3 pretty big publications. And so I loved publications, and I could see what they could do. They just, so much of Medium is like Goldilocks problem, where you can get it wrong in either direction, and you just have to there's a right way to do it. And if you're not doing it the right way, everything falls apart. And so publications, I think we didn't have a way for to incentivize publications to be curators. Like as a reader, you really want to follow a publication and feel like they have your interests in mind. And so what we had instead was publications publishing everything, not telling the system at all which of those was good, and kind of relying on our algorithms to figure it out instead. And so in that case, what's the point of the publication? And obviously we're past that, and when they're done right, publications are. If you ever talk to a publication editor, the amount of work and care and support they'll give to an author is amazing. I mean, you already mentioned how you fix up people's titles. Like that's an important service to a new writer, and so that now, because the publication ecosystem is getting so much stronger, it's really easy to point a new writer in a direction, right? There's specific publications like New Writers Welcome that are just for brand new writers on any topic. But then even if you have something more specific to say, usually there's a publication that that caters to it. And so you can use them as the bar. Like, how good does my writing have to be in order to be publication ready? Which is, that's confusing in some way. So they do so much, so much more now, and it was a no-brainer just to try to advertise that fact, essentially.
And I think it's a great encouragement too, because a lot of writers who are new to Medium, they think they have to have a huge portfolio or following before they can apply to work with publications.
Yeah.
And in reality, it can be the other way around. Publications can be the biggest support when you're starting out and you don't really have an audience yet. And I think that's the beauty of it. You have publications for each stage, but also for so many topics and different niches, even different styles of writing now, that you will find your home. And I think that's something that I love to say too. Like, it does take some work in the beginning. There are a huge list of publications, and everyone has their own submission guidelines, their own rules. But I think that's part of what makes it fun and beautiful, because you get to choose what resonates with you. There might be 5 different publications on your topic, and 3 of them just might not feel right. And the other 2, it might click. It works. It works well. You get along with the editor. And I think it takes some time to figure those things out in the beginning, but it's worth it. It's worth putting your work in front of an audience that already exists and says, I'm interested in that topic. Instead of trying to figure it all.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question about your experience? is in order to have a healthy publication ecosystem, we need people who want to start and run publications. And so you've had an experience in the last year of having gone from being a really successful writer and teacher on the platform to running a publication, better marketing. And so I'm curious if you have any guidance about, when in your time on Medium is a good time to start a publication, because there's not publications on everything yet. And I think there's still a lot of room to start publications. But have you learned any lessons about what's required or what might motivate a person to start one?
I think there's a lot of motivation now for people to start because they have the incentive of wanting to be part of the Boost program and that's
Mm,
kind of, you feel like you're kind of being a part of the Medium,
yeah,
extended Medium team, sort of, by curating and boosting or nominating stories. I don't think there's a perfect time related to how long you've already been on Medium or how many stories you publish, but you have to have a good sense of what's going on and what
yeah,
a good quality story in that particular field is and what readers want to read. I
yeah,
think it doesn't make a lot of sense for a new writer to create a publication if you are still trying to figure out how to write stories that people want to read or will discover.
yeah,
But you can get there really quickly, and I think the learning curve is really different for different people. Like, some people, they join Medium within 2-3 months, they have a really, really substantial following, and they understand what their readers want. For others, it takes a little more time because they're not used to the online world, or they've been offline writers for
hmm,
decades, and it's a bit more, or a much bigger shift in the way they have to think about audience and packaging their
yeah,
stories. I don't think there is a follower count or time period or anything related to that,
yeah.
but and I think
I,
the most
yeah,
interesting part of it is if you have a few different writers in a particular topic that want to collaborate and form a publication, because everyone has a different experience. And even if 3 writers have been on Medium for 3 months, 6 months, but they've been consistently creating and engaging with their audience, they can have a pretty good sense of what that particular audience wants.
right, right. Someone had asked us to explain the pub crawl. I just saw that in the comments. I think it's worth just saying. It was a event that we ran a month ago to help writers meet some of the publications. It's not required that you have, like, if you missed it, it's not going to hurt you in any way. It was more to kind of drum up or the idea that this is a good way to write. Um, so we probably right now we're thinking if we do the pub crawl again, we'll just do it once a year. So for now, uh, there's a lot of other ways to find publications to write for. There's lists of them. I think a lot of people just they see an article they like, and then they go look at the publication that published it.
I also wanted to highlight Amy's comment above. It's finish your draft day. It was my mistake to say editing dates. Finishing the drafts, as I said before. Are there? I actually have two questions. One might be a bit shorter. The other might be a bit more, a bit deeper. Is there anything you want to share with the community that we have not discussed yet, that we didn't talk about?
Like breaking news. The
Even if it's not
I,
breaking news, no, just anything. Is there anything that you feel like people are getting wrong, that you would like more writers to know and be aware of? Just want to give you the opportunity to share anything that you feel like is important to
Just
share.
to repeat myself, like, because and to hear your take on it too. I think sometimes people, the words around quality are sometimes so intimidating. Like, even we've used the word expert, but usually I try to say expertise, right? Everyone has expertise. Everyone is by definition an expert in their own life. Very few people feel like experts, right? So it's really easy to mishear something as like exclusionary to you, and it's just absolutely not. Um, and then uh, and then one second. The That's probably the main one, just to repeat, um, just to keep repeating, and to have people like you encouraging people to shoot for some higher bar, that it's within like everyone's capability. It's and it pays better, and it's more fun, and it's more useful to the world. And I think there's all of these like get rich quick traps all over the internet. That's just, make $1 million in a weekend, or build a course and have passive income forever. And I mean, of course, like, we all dream of having an easy life, but I think on a day-to-day basis, I think we're always happier if we focus instead on just being useful.
And I'd actually love to add something to what you said before in terms of being an expert, trusting in yourself and your skills. It's something I discussed just last week in another live session, where someone asked me, do you ever have imposter syndrome? Do you feel like you're not good enough? And I told them it's pretty much all the time. And I know that a lot of my peers, a lot of other writers that I've talked to feel the same way. I don't think you ever feel like, some people might feel like what they're creating is perfect and it deserves a million readers. I think most of us don't feel that way. And if I'm 100% honest, this is true for everything I do. I show up here and try to provide the best possible value, but every time, like before each of these sessions, I'm nervous and I'm wondering if it's going to deliver the value, and if it's good enough. Every time, Tony, before I text you, it's like 3 weeks of thinking about, is it like, do I really have something interesting enough to share? And is it like, is he going to say yes to the interview because there is something of value that I can provide to him? I definitely am an overthinker, but I think most of us are, or a lot of people are, and you can be a little bit intimidated by the journey and by the idea of people seeing your writing and by the idea of putting your thoughts out there. But that's how you start. And ideally, you get people, you reach people who tell you, this is how I've been feeling too, and thank you for writing this, and this made my day, and this is useful, or I connect with this. And that makes it easier. Like, the more feedback you get, the more you start to trust in yourself and your story. But I don't think you start out by thinking that you have everything figured out.
No. I mean, the reason I write is because my starting point is I don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know what I'm talking about. And like, a reason writing is often irreplaceable is because it's such an effective way of forcing you to think clearly, right? It's like, if you know the Amazon management culture, they don't allow slide decks. They force you to write a 6-page memo, right? It's because the 6-page memo is more thoughtful. And that's true of everyone. I'm worried, because I've been monitoring the comments as you have. I'm worried that there's people here just waiting for an answer about the expansion of the partner program. Do we want to just like give them an answer, even though it's not going to be particularly satisfying? And
let's talk about
all right. I mean, we talked about this actually before we even started recording. The answer has not changed. Expanding the partner program, it requires technical work. We are not by nature masters of financial billing. We often rely on other services, which is why we didn't have it when we launched, but it is now a possibility for us. And unfortunately, we made a mistake last summer by announcing that we were working on it and giving a launch date and then missing that launch date. So the kind of the unsatisfying thing that I'm going to say is we've just made it policy not to promise dates anymore. It wasn't helpful for anyone, and we don't honestly ever know exactly when something is going to launch. It's still important to us. It's still on mission. It's good business. It's good mission, good for the mission, and it'll be ready when it's ready.
I'm just scrolling through the comments to see if there's anything else we want to mention. I saw one comment about stats, I think. I just want to bring this up here because there's been some changes recently on the stats pages that have been really interesting. So is there anything you want to share in terms of stats? Is this in the works at all, or do you personally, I'm not even sure if this would be the most useful information to have for me personally as a writer. Is there anything that you're working on as a team that you want to share?
I mean, I think we are still due a stats upgrade for publications, and that also, I'm not going to put a date on it. It's in the works. I think I want to say kindly but clearly that there's a part of this question that is just a case study in what we're trying not to do, right? It's what about this question represents quality, a recommended amount of words, articles, right? Like these are all the questions you ask when you've been trained by the internet to optimize for the systems. Question is, like the starting point for every writer is, what topic am I writing about, and what does the reader need to hear in order to be for that topic to be effective? That could be 200 words, or it could be 20,000 words. And I only want to hear if I hear a question that's not about the substance of the writing, I immediately feel like I haven't done a good enough job of encouraging people to focus on quality first.
Yeah, and I think it's part of it is also Medium allows you to expand and explain your thoughts in a very deep way if that's what you want to do. But there are also writers who write poetry and short stories, and there is a publication for almost anything. But I think exactly what you said. On other platforms, you might be able to tell an average word count or the perfect word count to go viral. The beauty of Medium is that you can't do that because I always say never. That's what I tell my students: like never make your story shorter or longer just to make it shorter or longer. There has to be a better reason. Like there might be a reason to expand or to shorten a story, but it's not because you want to hit 1,000 words or because it's 2,000 words and you want it to be 1,500.
Right. What time of day, to publish, all of that stuff is, I mean, that's trying to hack the system, and it's just the wrong place to put your focus.
I would say, I'm curious if you agree. I would say the only probably more technical thing that I encourage writers to understand is understand topics and look into topic pages of the topics you are interested in to get a sense of what's going on and how topics might also connect to each other, so you know how to tag your stories or which tags to use, because that can indeed have an impact. particularly also for Boost nominators, because especially when we started Boost nominating, we spent a lot of time on so many different topic pages, and we went niche. We went to marketing, we went to digital marketing, we went to newsletter, and it went deeper and deeper, more and more niche. And I think that's a really important thing for writers to understand. Or it can be an interesting thing to understand, because you don't have a lot of choices to really growth hack in a way that you push a button and your story does well or does worse. But topics can be interesting.
No, absolutely. I mean, that feature is there for a reason, and it does a lot to help you explain who is this post for, because sometimes it's not obvious. And submitting to publications and marking it within topics are a really big part of helping you communicate who is your story for.
I have one question. I think your answer might be one that or related to something that you already said today. But if you could change one thing about Medium overnight, what would it be right now?
I'm probably most antsy for publications to be more native to the platform, right? That we know a huge number of authors find publications and publish in them, but I can't help but think we're leaving authors out. Because to describe what the hoops you have to jump through as an author, you would think it would never work, and yet it does work, right? Like, to find a publication, you have to, to publish in a publication, you have to have heard of the publication. You have to find their submission guidelines. You have to go through their submission guidelines. Someone at that publication has to approve you, and only then can you send your story through. It's just like, that's a lot more friction than we need for something that's really core to the experience. That's what I'm most antsy for, I would say.
I love to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, now the tools could be better, and there's not, compared to the number of readers and the number of writers, there's not that many editors. But those editors are the power users of the whole platform, and the more efficient they are, the more effective, the more powerful their work will be.
Mm-hmm. I actually have a question that's slightly related that we received from the community. It's from Leon. Leon asked why there's not more transparency about Boost nominators and Boost publications. So he said, why do we have to dig so hard to find the info? Wouldn't it be in Medium's best interest to have a regularly updated list of all nominators? And I don't know if that's true, but he also said, why are so many tiny and largely irrelevant publications being given nomination status while big publication years of readership are overlooked?
Okay, I
Why
love
is it down?
everything.
Why is it down to the writers to hunt down the nominators?
I mean, there's so many parts to that question. I mean, first of all, yes, there should be more transparency. For the most part, all of the publications are known. They're just sort of known quietly, like, the savvy writers have made lists, and those lists are available and people seem to work on. But we should just make that transparent. And it was kind of an artifact of starting small and growing. And I mean, just to say yes even louder, the part that the reader is missing is that every nominator writes a really compelling reason why they nominated something for the boost. And I think the readers deserve to read that, because sometimes it's not obvious why, or even sometimes just reading that note helps you understand, well, it was boosted for a reason, but not for me, right? And I always say with curation, there needs to be a feedback loop, right? So if um, uh, the nominators should hear back, if their reasoning could be better. So I think all of that should be publicly visible. And again, I'm not going to put dates to any of it. Then the last part of the question, which just lets me return to my theme of quality over and over again. You said, like, why do the bigger publications not get the boost? What about big is quality, right? Like we've given, like in order to be a nominator, you have to apply, and part of the application process is explaining what experience you're bringing to the nominations you give, and then actually demonstrating that you're capable of discerning something that's boostable and something that's not. So there's no weight that we would give just because a publication is large. I mean, we know for a fact, I think a lot of people have seen you can get large just by publishing a lot, and that's not the same as quality at all. Although I tend to think that actually most of the large publications have a nominator on them right now. I don't know what specific, but like hypothetically, there's nothing about being large that is um, satisfying what we're trying to accomplish here.
And I think it's also the other side of that argument is you could have a really
I think I got all pieces of it there. That was like a very multi-part question.
Yeah, but just the encouragement that you could have a very niche, small publication that could also be part of the Boost program, because just because the topic is not mainstream and relevant for millions of readers doesn't mean it's
right.
important. Is there anything you wanted to add to that before?
No, I mean, niche is good, right? That's like when you follow a publication or when you write for a publication, you're signing up for like a type of curation. And yeah, sometimes you want a broad audience, but sometimes you want the right audience, and sometimes the right audience just happens to be really small. So like theoretically, we're really in love with enabling more small publications. I have one, like if you're asking me what other things we missed here, there's one thing. Sometimes when I do an interview with someone on the community, someone else in the community will say, well, why did you choose them? And you were saying earlier how you think so hard before you reach out to me. And so I wanted to say to anyone that wonders, I don't think I've ever turned down an interview. I don't know if you hopefully you can tell. I think it's important for us to constantly be talking to the community. And like if you see me in the comments, that's like that's my signal to you. Like if you want to talk to us, we really make an effort to get out into the community, because it's helpful both ways. It helps, I think, people understand what we're up to, and it helps us understand what's important, to people.
I think that's actually a great way to wrap it all up. If we get to talk in another interview at the end of the year, what would be your ideal case scenario? What would you want to share with the community in half a year or by the end of the year?
This is so savvy. You're setting up the next
where
right after I say
going?
I always say yes. I just, I'm always just antsy. I hope we're so much further ahead. But if I just look at the last 6 months from Medium Day to PubCraw, I think people have really accepted and adjusted to this new idea of quality. We really shifted where the money went so aggressively. And I remember that August was tough because you had some people saying, hey, this is great. I'm finally getting paid for quality, and a lot of other people saying, well, hey, where'd my money go? And I think everyone has adjusted. And so what I'm hoping is that we can say something meaningful about the publication ecosystem, that there's more publications, they're more known, it's more part of the habit and the culture here to work with publications. And that's really a focus for us this year. And so hopefully that's what we're talking about, because that's what people are doing, and that's really, like, hopefully there's some big successes by the time we talk again.
That's amazing to hear. I know publications have been part of my journey right from the beginning. I guess I've just been lucky to I don't know, maybe just to read a couple stories early on that told me to submit to publications, even though I had no idea what I was really doing. But it's always been important to me. And I know there's been a lot of different conversations over the years. Are publications dying? Do they still matter? And it's really refreshing to me also to hear it from you that they matter. And there's work being done to make it even easier for publications. I know that Katie at Better Marketing has been keeping a long list of features she wishes that will be implemented on the editor's side. So yeah, I'm excited and looking forward to all the new tools that we will hopefully be able to use to make editing and managing a publication easier, but also to provide a better service in a way to the writers publishing with publications.
Yeah, well, likewise. So yeah, we'll do our best. We're not putting dates on any of these, but I think hopefully we're all getting a sense of, like, Medium's focus now, and how much we care, and how where we're headed, and how persistent we're going to be at getting it right for the people who write here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, Tony. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you for being so open about everything that you shared. Thank you for everyone who has been with us live and who participated in the comments. And I hope that we'll see each other again at a end of year update session.
Absolutely. Schedule it. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.